Hello and welcome to First to Citizens. Today on First to Citizens, we are doing something that's rather peculiar. It's electoral season in this country, and like many positions, the presidency is up for contest. Today, we are speaking to someone that might be a new face to most of you, that has launched a presidential bid. Now, this lady has come from afar in terms of many other areas, but not so much political. We'll be listening in from a lady known as Nancy Kalembe, a presidential aspirant in the forthcoming 2021 general elections in Uganda. You will be joining us from your homes or wherever it is that you're watching us from. But as we continue, our audience here is socially distanced because of the COVID guidelines, and we'll be talking to Nancy to find out from her. Why is she running for top office, where there's been no lady for long? She's not in the army, she's not in a political party. Why is she interested in this office? And Nancy, you're very welcome to this edition of First Citizens.
Thank you, Jacob.
If you could greet everyone here to introduce yourself formally for us.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nancy Kalembe, and I'm here to present myself as your next president come 2021-2026. I'm very happy to meet you, and I'm looking forward to hearing your questions, your advice,
Okay.
and some information that maybe I've not heard about before. So I'm looking forward to interacting with all of you.
Great. Welcome, Nancy. For those of you that will be watching us online, you can, of course, use our Facebook page to post a question or two that we can pass on to the presidential aspirant. Nancy, let's start from what you did on the 30th of July, putting up a press conference and putting up a show for declaration. We thought that was pretty good. I mean, you're reaching out to the electorate. Mission 56, you said, leaving no one behind. And tell us about this. What is this entirely? What do you mean by leaving no one behind? And why are you the one charging at leaving no one behind?
Thank you very much, Jacob. Mission 56,
Okay.
our slogan is leaving no one behind. Uganda is a very fragmented society.
Okay.
Over the years, we've had division along tribal lines. We've had division along religious lines. And more superficially, we have divisions along political lines. This is very dangerous for a country that is working towards development. And as we say, leaving no one behind, we want everyone to move with us into political, economic, social transformation and development. We do not want to choose people based on where they come from or their belief system. We want to work with people according to their merit and their willingness to see Uganda move to a first world nation. Why me and why now? Of all the candidates that have presented themselves over the years, I believe I'm the most multifaceted. I'm not a politician, but I've worked in different industries. And I have seen where the shoe pinches. I've been in marketing, I've been in media, I've been in oil and gas, I've been a sportswoman, I've been in entertainment, I've been in banking and finance.
Okay.
And others like women empowerment.
Nancy, that sounds more like a technocrat coming into politics. You're claiming you're not a politician, but you're coming into mainstream politics at the highest level of politics in our country. Isn't it something that you think is going to become a problem for you if the politics begin to play at its extreme, don't you think?
You see, when you look at the politics of our nation, it's been more about talking and very little doing.
Okay.
We have great policies written, but how many of them have been put in effect? I believe that right now Uganda doesn't need someone from the political background, but someone from the working background.
Okay.
I come from the corporate world where we are taught disciplines. such as delivering on time, meeting targets. Sorry. We're taught to be respectful to those that we work with and those we work for.
Yeah.
And I believe Uganda is a gold mine. And a lot of times we have not seen its full potential because we've been lacking in leadership. We've had more transactional leaders than transformational leaders.
Do you have
And right
examples
now,
for this, Nancy?
I would like to refrain from pointing fingers.
Okay.
Because as Mission 56, we believe in leaving no one behind. And we believe in forgiveness and reconciliation. Everybody sees the faults, but very few people see the good side of people. We'd like to come in and focus on the good side, reconcile people, forgive, so that we can all work together. I'm not coming with guns blazing. I'm not coming insulting anyone. I'm coming in peace.
Right.
Maybe something that Uganda has not seen since independence.
Okay. You said, to paraphrase, you are the embodiment of the change we deserve. That's rather audacious, don't you think? And if you are the embodiment of the change we want, what does this exactly mean for those that are there, but also those that have been offering change? What's the difference there if you are the embodiment of that change?
Correction.
Okay.
I am the embodiment of the change that Uganda needs, not wants.
So you've made it even bigger, that we need.
Needs,
All right.
yes.
What is that to me?
Well, for starters, Uganda has never had a leader who's not militant. I come in peace. The few leaders in the past, very close to our independence, were more like figureheads that were placed there because of one colonial master wanting one thing and all
Is
the
that
other.
Dr. Apollo Milton Obote you're talking about?
I will refrain from judging. Let history do its judgment.
All right, so you will be protective of your language while you talk about past leaders.
Yes.
And okay.
I will respect them. I've been raised to learn to honor those that have come before me and respect elders.
All right.
So I shall not be the judge of anyone who has come before me, because you'll never know how hard it is to score a goal unless you're on that field.
All right.
So I'll be respectful of that, and that's what we've been preaching as Mission 56.
Okay.
However, we shall speak about what we would like to do and how we'd like to do it. And right now we speak about the need, the kind of leader that Uganda needs. And right now, Uganda needs to speak one voice. We need to be united if we are going to grow together.
All right. What I am asking, Nancy, is
Yes.
that we have a reigning opposition presence in Uganda. In fact, we have an opposition stronghold in people like Dr. Kizza Besigye. We now have the emergence of Bobi Wine, Honorable Chagulanyi Robert. Why do you think that you prevent yourself from first allying with those figures of opposition, but then secondly being distinctive of them? How do you pronounce yourself distinctive?
I respect the people who have been in opposition for all these years.
Okay.
I would like to believe, and I believe, that the glory of the latter house shall be greater than the glory of the former house.
What's the latter house? This sounds like
The latter
more
house
preaching than...
is sitting right before you.
Okay.
The people who have come before us in opposition, they focused more on unseating the current president. They have great ideas, yes,
Okay.
but some of the people who have come from opposition have been disgruntled.
Okay.
They're angry about one thing or another. And when you're angry, you're not very objective sometimes. When you're angry, that energy flows to the people that you lead. And as you can see in the recent past, we've had tear gas, we've had people losing their lives. Just because we are having a change in God, it does not mean that people's children should be sacrificed.
All right.
When you speak about the change that Uganda needs right now, I'm coming as a mother, one who will bring different ideologies together.
Okay.
One who will be willing to work with others. You also asked me about why haven't I considered
Joining forces.
joining forces with
Yes.
the opposition. As we say that leaving no one behind, I'm willing to work with anyone who's willing to work with me. We have different ideologies, different ideas, and different approaches to leadership. So you cannot force people to work together, but we can agree to work together. So I'm looking forward to which of the opposition leaders would like to work with me,
Okay.
and I'll be humbled and honored.
Have you reached out to them yourself?
I have reached out to some of them.
To
and some
work with
have
you or to back you?
Not to back me, but so that we can work together.
All right. Nancy, you've mentioned something rather peculiar there, that it is in the interest of mothers, or so to speak, you're coming as a mother to the nation. You're only 34 years, I gather. How much of that is motherly to a country that has enough politicians way above that? Even mothers.
Correction, I'm not 34.
Okay.
The article you read was written a few years back.
Oh,
that was
okay.
talking about me being 34.
Okay.
I'm turning 40 this year.
Oh, wow. So you're already there.
Yes.
Do you feel that that is age old enough for Uganda's motherhood? Because we have so many politicians. The average age of politics in Uganda is somewhere around 44, and you're coming in as a mother to a country where the average age is above your age for participation.
Being a mother has very little to do with age.
Okay.
Being a mother has a lot to do with heart. That is why you see there are 50-year-olds who abort their children or abandon their families. And yet there are 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds who unfortunately have had children much earlier in life, but have persevered and taken care of their children. Motherhood is heart.
Okay.
I have a heart for this nation. I have been in different shoes and worn different hats. I understand the pain and the struggle and the frustration of people. The difference is I'm not coming shouting about my frustrations or the Ugandans' frustrations. I'm coming talking about solutions we could have together.
All right. Thank you. As we wind up this session, very quickly, you said that the politicians that are coming in from the opposition seem to exude some sort of anger as an inspiration, and you seem to have something else. My question on this now is that what is the problem that you foresee to solve? Because if everyone else is getting angry about something, what is that that's not getting you angry enough to solve in this country, but yet you see as a problem?
Uganda has a lot of problems.
Okay.
One of the most glaring problems that we have is poverty.
And it doesn't make you angry enough?
Both poverty and the poverty mentality. As a leader, you have to have emotional intelligence. And being angry about something does not necessarily mean you're going to do something about it.
Okay.
In fact, it works against you because you'll not be objective when you're tackling a problem and finding a solution. Problems happen. People make mistakes. Just like our leaders have made mistakes in the past. They're human beings, not gods. So being angry at them does not solve the problem. It only brings negative energy into the office that is supposed to be uniting Ugandans. So I see the problems. I have walked in those shoes. I've had my fair share of downward paths that have led to very painful places.
Okay.
In lands commission and running businesses in this country, financing and all that Ugandans are facing. However, there are two ways of looking at a problem. Either be angry about it, shout about it,
Okay.
or sit down and think of solutions and find people who have the same mindset.
Okay.
We've seen that violence has failed in the past.
All right.
So we choose a weapon that is more dangerous, and that is peace and love.
Okay.
That one has never failed.
All right. Peace and love, she says, and that's what Nancy is bringing to the presidency. When we come back from this short break, we'll be talking to Nancy about her policy solutions that are not exactly with the wording of peace and love after this break. This is Face to Citizens. Welcome back to this edition of Face to Citizens. We're talking to the presidential aspirant Nancy Kalembe, one you've probably not seen on your screens much in the previous elections, but she's coming out, and she says she's coming out strong. We're talking now to Nancy about her policy initiatives for Uganda. What will she do different with the prevailing poverty, the prevailing corruption, and all the kind? These questions will not be asked by me alone. Many of you at home have these questions, but we have an audience here that are socially distanced because of the pandemic. And we will be having them represent some of your thoughts and questions that you'd want to have a presidential aspirant answer. And so I'll start with the gentleman that's right to my, that is my left, and he'll be introducing himself for you so you can know his name and his question to the presidential aspirant. Please.
One couple from Iganga, Restless Development. What I want to know, Madam Nancy, we see that there is a gap between the young and the elderly when it comes to access to governmental opportunities and governmental positions. Though a few of the young people have been involved, but the biggest percentage is not involved. Now, we see that there is that big gap between the elderly and the young people. How are you going to address this? How are you going to bridge this gap between those two sides? Because the gap is so big.
Thank you. We'll be taking the next question from the lady to my extreme right. But as she gets it, of course, the question is on the gap, and there must be a big one in Uganda. Really, even though there is a majority of young people, there's still a big gap coming.
Hello everyone, I'm Lilian from Restless Development Uganda. My question is, what do you have in plan to ensure that all Ugandans have got access to quality health care services, including those ones who can't afford?
Great, that's a good question. The healthcare services, and that's a major one, seeing as we're in a pandemic. Let me have a lady to my immediate right here.
Hi everyone, I'm called Sarah Mugero from Restless Development, Iganga. Madam Nancy, my question goes, there is enough research to give evidence that very many, there is increase in school dropouts and then there is high rates of teenage pregnancies and then HIV infection. When you look at the statistics, there is enough evidence that almost every week girls are getting infected every week. So that gives a challenge somewhere about sexual reproductive health. Now, Madam Nancy, what strategies and policies do you have in plan to bring out some improvement on sexual reproductive health and then to keep girls in school?
Thank you. Let's have a lady at the back.
Hello everyone. I'm Namkuve Swaiba from Iganga.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Namkuve Swaiba from Iganga. And my question is, it's vivid that there are many...
Sorry, could you please raise your voice a little bit? I can hardly hear.
And there are many rural government schools.
Rural?
Yeah, but with poor performance. How will you go about it if you're given chance to be the president?
Thank you. Let's have a gentleman.
Okay, I'm Ngobe Isaac from Restless Development, Iganga. My question is all about education. What methodology are you going to use to ensure that education services are delivered to young people? For example, access to education in my village is very low. because we have some students doing ICT, but we don't have electricity. So there is a gap. Thank you.
Great. Let's start right there, Nancy. And I would prefer that we start with education because it has come in twofold. What is your plan on education for this country?
The education sector has more people going in, about 90% of the population that is in the age group of school-going age join primary school. But we find that about less than 25% join secondary school. Our education system has a number of issues. First of all, it has low retention, and it's not really tailored for us, Ugandans. And those are foundational issues. Our education system needs to be overhauled, and that is what we plan to do. How? We need to start from the foundation up. And by that, I mean early development centers.
Okay.
And if we focus on changing the syllabus and we start from the early ages, it helps the foundational years of a child to develop well. And our major focus should be on training the teachers, because you cannot think of having a developed education system when the education givers, the caregivers, are not developed. So we need skills building. We need to retrain some of the teachers, especially in the early years, as we set off, so that they will understand how to identify our children and their gifts and talents from a very early age.
So you're telling us that the teachers' colleges are doing a poor job currently?
Right now, they're not equipping them well. Why? Close to 20% of our children are special needs children.
Okay.
Meaning we have slow learners and the highly gifted, or what we call the geniuses. Most of the education systems in Africa provide special needs training for the children that have learning disabilities, because we assume, which is a very bad thing, that we do not have gifted children. So you find that some of the children are actually dropping out of school because our syllabus is not tailor-made for them. Not only are we struggling with dealing with the children that have learning disabilities, we have not paid attention at all to the children who are highly gifted. And in the process, we have children who have been labeled stupid by our education system. And yet you find that we are ignoring the geniuses that would one day come up with some innovative idea that would save lives. When we have well-equipped and efficient early learning centers, we deal with the problem of not getting fish and forcing them to climb trees.
Okay.
We are forced to learn math, English, science, and SST. And yet, it would be beautiful if children are identified from a very early age and maybe put into what they need. Some children are highly gifted in mechanics, even from an early age. But physics is introduced at secondary school. So that means you lose that child from an early age.
Okay.
And that's one of the things we'd like to deal with.
All right. There's a question on the health sector and how exactly you intend to deal with what is now becoming a very serious issue in our populace. Young ladies getting pregnant early and not having the requisite sexual reproductive health sort of address for them. How are you going to be dealing with the health sector given its blown out problems in this country?
That problem of early teenage pregnancies and the health sector, as you have mentioned it, is very broad. Because in there, you're not only discussing the health sector, you're discussing family and its breakdown in our society. Early pregnancies and sexual reproductive health for teenagers is a job that can be handled by both the family, the education sector, and the health sector. So it's threefold. But your question was specifically what I will do about the health sector.
Yes.
So considering that a few years back we had what they call girl talk and boy talk, and these programs actually did help teenagers to understand their bodies, understand how they function and what is expected of them. Our health system has focused, even if they're not doing a very great job, has focused on administering medication to heal, not on preventative. And right now, as we talk about the health sector disintegrating, we have to focus on the healthcare givers. You see, we always focus on machinery being available in hospitals, medicine being available in hospitals, or building infrastructure. It's like we're focusing on the aesthetics of the health sector.
But isn't that the most important part of the health
No,
sector?
it is not the most important
If people
part.
can't find medicine in the hospital,
If you
do you
build
think that's
the best
okay?
hospitals in the world and have machinery and have medicine without health caregivers, you've done absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Because in our history, in our cultures, each one of us had health caregivers, the traditional ones, that we seem to have forgotten about. It is the human beings, it is the human resource that needs a lot of help. If we equip them well, yes, we have a very good medical school and it produces good nurses and great doctors, but they are not motivated. They're not respected.
All right.
They're not well
So are you
remunerated.
proposing way higher pay for them?
Definitely.
How much of budget allocation do you think should go to the health sector in percentile?
I think to the health sector, it should come to about 3 to 5%.
That's still lower than the Maputo protocol suggests.
Let me explain.
Okay.
As you already know, we have a lot of debt as a country, and we need to refocus our resources without increasing our national debt.
Okay.
And when it comes to working with the healthcare givers, you're not only talking about remuneration per se, you're talking about their welfare. What kind of houses do they live in? Does the government provide housing? Does the government provide meals? What happens to their own, if I work in a private hospital, for example, one of the international hospitals, but I cannot afford to even take my children to that hospital, and that is the case for a lot of hospitals here in Uganda.
Okay.
What happens? Will I work with all my heart while I'm trying to save somebody? We've seen doctors who are saving somebody's life, but they're losing a child in another hospital. So those are the things I'm talking about.
All right. There's a question on the gap between the elders in this country and the young and the access that they have. Young people in this country have for legion years agitated for some sort of representative voice or some sort of democracy that actually recognizes their very pivotal role in this country. Being one of the top 2 youngest countries in the world, do you think young people should play a critical role in the development of this country? Where would you place young people in this country?
I believe having one of the youngest population in the world is a blessing for Uganda, because it means we have abundance of energy, abundance of innovation.
It also means we have a lot of dependents.
Not necessarily. That is what we have created for them. However, as we think of getting into office, one of the things that we'd like to do when tackling the economy is introduce, number 1, innovation centers. We know that we have a lot of brilliant young people, but we have relegated the job of innovation to Americans and Western Europe. And we're not thinking about building innovation centers. Yet we know very well we have youth who have come up with cars most recently.
Okay.
Someone built a nice phone. The IT department has a lot of young, brilliant minds that we've not harnessed. And besides innovation centers, we need incubation centers regionally.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll be holding it right there for this break. And when we come back from this break, we'll be talking much more on what Uganda has done well, agriculture, infrastructure, things that we've gotten some awards for. And we'll be checking whether Nancy thinks the same or we need to change course. Stay tuned. This is Face the Citizens, and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back to this edition of First Citizens, and we're talking to the presidential aspirant, big office, but it's what you would call the enviable Miss Nancy Kalembe. And we will be talking to her now about those things that are perhaps beyond what you meet as the ordinary person. We'll talk security, we'll be talking external policy, just to find out if Nancy has thought these things through and she's ready for the highest office that has to make these decisions. Nancy, welcome back to this edition of First Citizens, and I'd like to ask now, what is your external policy plan for Uganda? Do you have one?
Uganda, first of all, we have to understand that we are a landlocked country.
Okay.
And our external policy should first and foremost address our immediate neighbors. That's why regional integration is something that we need to deal with very urgently. Because without our neighbors' good interactions with us and good relations, we have no market completely. Being that one of our challenges in Uganda is poverty, growing our economy is of very urgent need. And when we thought through our external policies, first and foremost, we think economy and how to grow it. We think exports and imports and how to deal with them and have good relationships with our neighbors. Enforce certain policies that have been in place that perhaps have not been into play. For example, exchange of workers and employees. You find that Uganda is like a house with curtains.
Okay.
We welcome refugees, and that's a very good thing. And we welcome other employees, the foreign workers who come here to work. But we've not really enforced the same on our neighbors. So you find that Ugandans that have gone to work elsewhere have not found it as easy as we give the foreigners coming to work here. And one of the policies, because of time, I'll speak about the employee transfers that we have between our region in East Africa.
Okay, Mpisi on Facebook here says, there's a problem in the East African community integration itself. First, do you feel that we should continue the course or we should in some way abandon it? Do you think it's very important for us to continue the course of the EAC? If yes, how are we going to be dealing with the current muddy waters that are in the EAC? Tanzania has a different COVID response plan, as indeed does Burundi. Rwanda and Uganda have had problems. The border remains closed. How do you intend to deal with these emerging situations in the ensuing integration?
We cannot abandon regional integration because we are a landlocked country, as I said earlier. Being annihilated will be a big problem more for us than for them.
Okay.
So we are not in the best position to think that we should abandon regional integration. The problem with what we are facing now is Uganda as a country has failed to unite internally. We have to have internal peace and internal development of we need to develop a more cohesion society within Uganda. When we talk about regional integration, we talk about being united as a region. Having different policies in different countries does not prevent us from being united. Case in point, we have the Baganda who have a different culture from maybe the Bagisu or the Nyankole or the Northerners, from maybe Acholi or West Nile. when we choose to come together as a country, we do not stop people from having their own cultures. We harness the diversity and think about how we can use it for development. Tanzania has a different approach to COVID. That is their choice as a country. We have ours, and that is our choice as a country. As we think of regional integration, because we are sovereign nations, we cannot think of imposing a policy that works in Uganda for another. So I don't think we should abandon it. No, of course, definitely not. But it is important for us to respect the sovereignty of other nations.
Yeah. There has been, of course, the leading charge by the opposition in this country for the necessity of some sort of peaceful transition. That, of course, is a discussion in militaristic terms about the challenges we've had of militarism, or if you call it, some sort of lack of peaceful transition. Why do you think there'll be a peaceful transition to you, but then if it ever happens, why do you actually think you will manage the army, which is a product of a revolutionary act and whose revolutionaries still stand today serving in that army? Why do you think they'll have allegiance to you?
Our army is well provided for in our constitution. I think it's Article 208 and 209. Our army is a very professional army.
Okay.
And it is well equipped. They know that they are in place to work for Ugandans and with Ugandans for our protection and security. However, it is very clear also in the Constitution that they work with whoever is Commander-in-Chief, which I hope I will be in 2021. As Commander-in-Chief, I will be looking at our current army. In as much as they've been professionalized, I do believe that from speaking to a number of them, their welfare has not been taken care of. You know, before they're army men and army women, they are human beings. And when I'm in office, if you've realized, I've been speaking about human resource a lot. Every human being knows that they matter. But a lot of times we try to convince them in different sectors that they do not matter, like the youth. The army has been made out as some amorphous organization that only deals with people who speak military language.
Okay.
I do not believe so, because I've had the opportunity to actually interact with a number of them. And it is about, they will continue to be professional as long as the Commander-in-Chief understands their role, their duties, and the fact that they're still human beings and take care of their welfare.
Great. And you have brought up the issue of remuneration quite largely now, and you've spoken about increasing the army, you've spoken about increasing the teachers, the health sector. This all sounds like a lot of money coming through for public office, and that sounds like increasing the wage bill for the public. But that also means that you'll need to look for money somewhere. Uganda is already very indebted externally. How do you intend to merge your plans of increasing this pay with the necessity to pay off Uganda's debt externally?
As I mentioned earlier, Uganda is a gold mine. We've just not harnessed it. We've not used our resources well. And those that we have mismanaged.
How so? How have we mismanaged to arrive at the current date we have, but also not to pay the people that need that payment?
We have transactional leaders, and if you have seen in the recent past, we've had to pay our members of parliament to change the constitution. We pay off people in monetary terms and, well, in kind. We have wasted so much money in misappropriations of different levels and different kinds.
Okay.
And if we manage our finances well as a nation, not only will we be able to reduce government borrowing, but we will also reduce unnecessary expenditure by focusing on the things that we need.
What do you mean unnecessary expenditure? Where are we exactly spending unnecessarily in this country?
Let's give an example.
Because
of
defense, where you want to put more money, is probably one of the top 5 expenditures in this country. So what do you mean unnecessary expenditure?
Unnecessary expenditure is in, let's look at, you talked about military. It is very important for a country's sovereignty to be protected. So the budget that is spent on military is one of the necessary expenditures that we have.
Okay.
A few people may beg to disagree. And when I talk about welfare, I beg to correct you. I'm not talking about increasing salary only.
Okay.
Because we realize that people do not only get job satisfaction from more pay.
Okay.
Human beings, as in general, take job satisfaction from a number of other aspects within the job. Human rights, respecting each other in the jobs that we do and giving value and place to the jobs. You spoke about the healthcare givers and the education givers, the teachers, the doctors, the military now. And it is not about giving them more pay. If they're going to still sleep in unipods, if they still are not respected. We have relegated, for example, teachers to education is one of the courses that are selected as 3rd or 4th. And therefore, you're saying you're not giving value to it. And therefore, that means you're not respecting the teachers.
All right.
So it is not only increasing pay. I did not say I'm going to increase everybody's pay carelessly. Of course, you have to sit down with the economists of this country, and I believe we have very good economists, and sit down and gauge what needs to be cut, what needs to be increased, but focus on welfare beyond just salaries.
Okay. Mr. Okulo Jayawani on Facebook is asking, how will you deal with the inequalities that come through with government offers and government opportunities? Do you have a plan for that? Because it seems his suggestion is that there is a subsistent continuation of people accessing this without equality. How do you intend to deal with that?
Mr. Okulo, you said?
Mr. Okulo.
Hello, Mr. Okulo. I'm happy you're out there listening. About the inequality, as I said earlier, Uganda is fragmented along different lines. And Uganda has not been, the leadership that we have has not focused a lot on the quality of employees that they take in, both in government and in the private sector. We've considered where someone comes from or their name. And if we are to develop as a nation in all sectors, we have to consider merit. Case in point, Bank of Uganda, when we were much younger, used to only employ first-class degrees. Right now, that is not the case anymore. We have been so selfish in this nation, and our leadership has not tried to enforce the quota system or looking at merit and people's abilities. People have gotten jobs because they have a cheat or a not. If we enforce merit in different institutions, then the equality will...
Are you saying there is no merit currently in government?
In a lot of sectors, people are given jobs not because of merit.
Okay.
We have seen jobs that have been advertised in the news recently. And I'm sure a lot of Ugandans have faced this.
All right.
You put in your application and you find that there was a pre-qualified person before you even go for the interviews. And this is what the youth of today are complaining about. They're not being given equal opportunities to fight for jobs in organizations they would want to work in.
All right, Nancy, our final question. Now that we know you have no party, you're independent-minded, Parliament is not going to be the same. Parliament will have a lot of NRM or FDC or any other. We're yet to tell. But considering you're independent-minded and these people come in their groups and numbers, how do you intend to harmonize between your executive and the legislature so that this country is not a mess and in constant fight and pull?
As we say in Mission 56, we're leaving no one behind. There is unity in diversity and can be achieved. With a parliament that is from different political factions, we intend to work with all of them. One of the very first things that I think a head of state should not be is partisan.
Okay.
If you remember, when we were in school, we had houses and colors. Teachers belonged to different colors. Students belonged to different colors. But the headmaster did not have a color. It was for a reason. And I believe the head of state for a country that has multi-party should
Be able to work with all shades.
be able to work with all of them. And as soon as you come into leadership,
Yeah.
if I was in DP, for example,
Okay.
and I become president, I think the wisest thing to do to deal with a very fragmented society like Uganda is as soon as you become president, because you're supposed to serve the needs of all Ugandans with equality, it would be wise for the president to be non-partisan and not belong to any party. You basically give up your participation in your party and focus and let your party be Uganda.
Thank you. I'm sure Chairman Mao has heard you if you were in DP. We're pressed for time, so we'll be having your concluding remarks. Speak to the Ugandans and tell them what it is that you want them to hear in a very short while.
Dear Ugandans, I'm honored and privileged to be sitting here before you and speaking to you. The coming elections can be peaceful, and the power is in your hand. All you need to do is choose the leaders that have a heart for this nation, that are coming in peace, that are speaking forgiveness and reconciliation. We need to choose a leader as Ugandans and leaders in the several tiers of leadership that are going to be thinking about unity and equality without leaving anyone behind.
Thank you. And that has been First the Citizens today. I've been your host, Jacob Eyeru. We'll be again on First the Citizens next time with more aspirants, and talking to them will be for your benefit at home. Wherever you've been watching us from, join us again whenever we return. Thank you, and may God bless Uganda.